Good evening, you are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Oman Liquefied Natural Gas Company and BPE Singapore Company sign an agreement to sell and purchase around 1.1 million metric tons of Omani liquefied natural gas annually. The total credit granted by banks and depository corporations increases by 7% to reach 23 billion Omani riyals. 6,223 job seekers are employed in 19 economic sectors during the period from the 3rd to the 15th of January. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. Oman Liquefied Natural Gas Company and BPE Singapore Company signed an agreement to sell and purchase around 1.1 million metric tons of Omani liquefied natural gas annually. The 7-year agreement starts from this month, January. The Singaporean company will bear all needs and costs of gas shipping through providing special tankers. His Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Hamad Al Ramhi, Minister of Oil and Gas and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Oman Liquefied Natural Gas Company, said that the agreement will expand the activities of liquefied natural gas in the Sultanate and will enhance the Sultanate's position as a global hub for clean energy sources. His Excellency added in his remarks to Oman News Agency that the earnings of this agreement will contribute to enhancing the economy. It also will support efforts to achieve domestic added value and the company's social responsibility. The Sultanate, represented in the National Centre for Statistics and Information, achieved a Global Spatial Leadership and Excellence Award for the National Infrastructure Programme for Geographical Information as the best means to enhance economic growth. The award is granted for bodies that utilise best modern policies and technologies at a global level in order to serve local communities and citizens in their respective countries. The prize was handed over to the Sultanate during the ceremony, which was held on the occasion of the conclusion of World Spatial Geography Forum convened in Hyderabad in India. The award came as an international recognition for the advanced level achieved by the Sultanate in the field of the geographical information sector, which is being given special attention due to its pivotal role in the success of the government bodies to undertake its entrusted missions, especially those related to planning aspects. The total credit granted by banks and depository corporations increased by 7% to reach 23 billion Omani riyals. The credit granted to the private sector witnessed an increase by 6.5% so as to reach 21 billion Omani riyals at the end of last November. The sectoral distribution of the total credit granted to the private sector indicated that the personal loan sector acquired 46%, followed by non-financial companies by 45%, while the share of the financial company sector reached around 7%. (6,223) male and female job seekers were employed in 19 economic sectors during the period from the 3rd of December to the 15th of January, as per statistics of the Ministry of Manpower. This came in implementation of the Council of Ministers' decision to provide jobs for 25,000 job seekers. Around 300 job seekers took tests in several jobs offered by Dhofar Bank as part of the banking sector. Other banks in the Sultanate will also conduct interviews for job seekers in the upcoming days. The supervising bodies of the employment of national manpower affirm that work is continuing to provide job opportunities for citizens, pointing out that there are steps and measures being taken to support employment programs during the upcoming period. The number of passengers at Muscat International and Salalah airports increased by 16.7% and 27% respectively by the end of 2017 compared with 2016. The total number of passengers of these two airports reached 15.5 million according to the National Centre for Statistics and Information. The statistics released by the NCSI said that the number of passengers at Muscat International Airport, including transfer and transit, stood at 14 million by the end of last December 2017, compared with 12 million passengers by the end of December 2016. The number of flights was 114,258 by the end of December 2017, constituting a 10.6% increase compared with 103,326 flights by the end of 2016. The number of international flights at Muscat International Airport by the end of December 2017 stood at 102,148, which is an increase of 8.9% over 93,822 flights by the end of 2016, on which 12,824,294 passengers travelled, representing a growth of 16.5%. The statistical bulletin issued by the National Ferries Company indicated that the company carried last year 240,700 passengers, an increase of 9% compared to 220,859 passengers in 2016. The statistics showed that 62,014 vehicles were carried during the same period compared to 54,078 vehicles in 2016, a growth of 15%. The cargo volume on the ferry fleet increased by 93% to 29,308 tonnes from 15,179 tonnes in 2016. The statistical bulletin issued by NFC reported that the Shana-Mazira line maintained its position as the most used line. It carried more than 184,000 passengers, constituting 77% of the total number of passengers, with a 51% occupation rate, and carrying 56,299 vehicles, constituting 66%. The two ferries, Shana and Mazira Dual, made 2,466 journeys in 2017, compared to 6,525 journeys carried out by the 11 ferries owned by citizens. With a wide participation from owners of camels and horses from different wilayas of the governorates of North and South Batana, activities of Al-Ada running conducted within the annual festival of domestic camel races concluded in the wilaya of Saham. This event is organised by the Royal Court Affairs, represented by the Royal Cavalry, and lasts for 5 days. His Highness Sheikh Humaid bin Rashid Al Nuaimi, member of the UAE Supreme Council and ruler of Ajman, presided over the conclusion ceremony. A number of Omani youths performed live shows as they rode Omani camels, portraying traditional arts. In addition to that, poems were presented, and winners of the participating camels in the race were honoured. With wide participation of camel breeders, the activities of Camel Beautification Festival started in the Walaya of Barka in the Governorate of South Batana. The 6-day festival was attended by a great host of camel beauty contest fans from inside and outside the Sultanate. During the ceremony, national poems, in addition to some Omani dancing arts, were presented. Still to come in our news bulletin. French cattle farmers fear a fallout from the Mercosur Free Trade Agreement. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. In the basement of a government building in the northern Syrian city of Aleppo, some 25 women sit behind their sewing machines, busily making military uniforms for troops and pro-government gunmen. The working women are of different ages, but have one thing in common: the loss of a male relative during Syria's 7-year conflict. The war has left thousands of women widowed and without their beloved sons, fathers and siblings. Many of them lack a source of income. Having taken control of eastern Aleppo more than a year ago, President Bashar Assad's Ba'ath Party is trying to take care of those women whose relatives fought for the government or are among its strong supporters. As part of this effort, the party renovated an abandoned building for a state women's organisation and set up the Rad al-Jamil Centre, where so far some 150 women have been trained to sew clothes in order to become breadwinners. Egypt's former military chief of staff announced today he will run for president in the March elections. Sami Anan released a statement just hours after President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi declared his bid to run for a second 4-year term. Anan said he has formed a presidential team that would include Egypt's former top auditor Hisham Janina, who was sacked by el-Sisi in 2016. Other presidential hopefuls include a prominent human rights lawyer who has alleged harassment by the authorities. Two civilians and soldiers killed in Pakistan-India border clashes were killed in the latest escalation of violence along the volatile Indian-Pakistani frontier in Kashmir after Pakistani troops opened fire today. Indian police said Pakistani soldiers were targeting Indian border posts and villages with mortar shells and automatic gunfire for the 4th straight day in Jammu region. Both countries have accused the other of initiating past border skirmishes and causing civilian and military casualties. The two civilians, one a teenage boy, were killed today when mortar shells exploded inside their homes. At least 10 civilians and a paramilitary soldier were also injured. Pakistan yesterday accused Indian troops of initiating cross-border fire and targeting Pakistani villages. Two bushfires were burning out of control in a national park in Sydney's southern outskirts today. A Rural Fire Service spokesman said that around 1,000 people were in the Royal National Park when the fire broke out and were told to evacuate. He said about 200 people, including those attending a junior surf carnival, were unable to get out of their own, and the RFS was arranging a sea escort to get them out of the park. Firefighters and water-bombing helicopters were used to bring the blazes under control. The cause of the fires has not yet been determined, but fire authorities had warned of the potential hazard as the southeast of Australia swelters in dry conditions with temperatures topping almost 38 degrees Celsius. About 50 fires have been reported around the state. Fires are also burning in the southeast of South Australia and Tasmania, with dangerous weather conditions being experienced across much of the southeast of the country. Louis Marfurt's 3,700-acre farm in Uruguay sells 4,000 head of beef cattle per year. Cedric Mandin's French cattle farm puts out just about 200. Now, a free trade agreement in the works between the EU and the Mercosur trade union wants to put them in competition, a prospect that has small French farmers fearing for their livelihoods. More details in the following report.
These Charolais cows have been the pride of the Mandin family for 4 generations. Since 1998, it's Cédric Mandin and his brother who've been raising the beef cattle. But these days, it's a whole other kind of animal that has them worried. A free trade agreement between the EU and the Mercosur trade group could see an influx of South American meat on the European market, some 70,000 tons of it each year.
With that amount of meat potentially coming in, we're going to lose farmers who are respected and who work excessively hard, but who won't be able to make ends meet.
After the CETA agreement allowed 65,000 tons of meat on the EU market from Canada in the fall, French farmers fear this new influx from the Mercosur group, which includes Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay, will keep driving meat prices down. This economist says French farmers could see their prices drop 10%, with a third of existing jobs potentially threatened, and little to no growth potential on the other side of the Atlantic to mitigate the damage.
I don't see a major advantage for the European agriculture sector on the Mercosur. There may be a few sectors that could benefit, but the risks in the agricultural sector are much greater than the potential gains or opportunities.
11,000 kilometers away, Luis Marfurt is looking forward to the opening up of the EU market. Here in Uruguay, his farm has produced beef cattle for over 50 years on 3,700 acres, an average size for the region. Each year he sells 4,000 cows, dwarfing his French colleagues' output of about 200.
For us, this agreement is one more market. Uruguay already has many markets for its meat. It'll open new outlets and increase our competitivity.
Mercosur is already the world's biggest meat exporter, and its growth remains unchecked. But hurdles remain between it and the EU market, including antibacterial chemicals used in South American cattle raising that are banned in the EU. French farmers, protective of their small farms, are watching closely, hoping such differences will keep the European Commission from sealing the deal.
Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning over the governorates of Sharqiya and Worcester and coastal areas of the Sea of Oman. Winds will be southerly to southeasterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.5 metres. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Oman Liquefied Natural Gas Company and BPE Singapore Company signed an agreement to sell and purchase around 1.1 million metric tonnes of Omani liquefied natural gas annually. The total credit granted by banks and depository corporations increases by 7% to reach 23 billion Omani riyals. 6,223 male and female job seekers are employed in 19 economic sectors during the period from the 3rd of December to the 15th of January. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.